Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katherine Young and I'm a creative, and this video is a little bit of a spur of the moment video. I got sent this post by a friend on Instagram, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to do a video on it, and I wanted the video to be this week. So I'm getting it done. I usually pre-film a lot of videos so that with my full-time job being a graphic designer and, you know, just life in general, I'm not so stressed out to get out videos every week, but I just had to get this one out. So a friend of mine sent me a post on Instagram and she said, "Have you seen this hashtag before? Because it is so you." So I click on the post and the hashtag was Cluttercore. Oh my God, another aesthetic, right? How many more do we need? But I looked at it and oh my goodness, like I loved it. I loved everything. And I was like, this is so me. This is exactly me. And so I just fell down the Cluttercore rabbit hole. I loved everything about it. And really all Cluttercore is it's giving an aesthetic to the idea of maximalism that's just a little bit more shall we say, like whimsical in the definition. So if you haven't heard of Cluttercore or Maximalism, stop this video right now and go look at the hashtag on Instagram. I'll have it linked below, okay? You need to go check it out and see how awesome this is. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks to get that Cluttercore look, and I'm also going to talk about just a few of the drawbacks of Cluttercore too. So I want to just keep it real, and let's get started. When you think of this aesthetic, think of antique stores. Think of people who collect really large vintage collections. Think of vintage enthusiasts and resellers. Think of the aesthetic they create. A lot of that falls under Cluttercore. And to be quite honest, I used to think I was a minimalist. I know, you're looking behind me and you're like, really, a minimalist? But I was very much a rolling stone for the past 15 years. And so buying stuff just didn't make sense because I'd always have to move and I'd have to move the items. It's only been recently that I've been more stable in where I'm living that I've been picking up, collecting more, picking up more things for that Cluttercore aesthetic. And now I am absolutely sure I'm a maximalist. I love collecting, I love vintage, I just can't get enough. So let's talk about just some tips and tricks with Cluttercore and how to make that work. First of all, things do not have to match. A lot of design aesthetics, from boho to shabby chic to farmhouse, a lot of the stuff matches colors, matches things. Stuff doesn't have to match because as a human, you are going to self-curate. It's going to match anyways. Now, I know that seems like a weird thing to say, but we all have things we like, and people who like Cluttercore tend to have a broader aesthetic of things they like, but they still tend to like some of the very same things. So some of the same colors, some of the same eras, some of the same textures and patterns tend to show up in the items they purchase. And so when you set them together, all of a sudden they start to make sense because you are self-curating, because you are drawn to similar things. I mean, I may love this kind of bohemian style quilt. I love this drawing sketch style. I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I love the vintage and the vintage textiles. And I love this little fur baby. I also love Disney. You can see there's some Disney hands over there. Vintage Kaftan. Or vintage Afghan, sorry. And more Disney. But when you back up, look at all that. Well, hello, little miss. You know, you look at all that and it still goes together. And why does it go together? Because it goes with me. And just by the natural curation of things I love and stuff I like, colors are tying together. Look, there's the same bright pops of blue. There's bright pops of purple. There's bright pops of red. They all go together just because it's me. Just because a color doesn't match perfectly doesn't mean it doesn't match perfectly with you. That's the great thing about Cluttercore. All the colors match because they match you. But speaking of color, color is a great way to achieve Cluttercore that feels a little bit more organized. Typical Cluttercore, however, isn't usually just one color or two colors. It's usually a bunch of different colors that work well together. Or it could be a whole family of colors. Is it all muted colors? Is it all dark colors? Is it contrast colors that play off each other? It tends to be a broader palette than just a very few specific colors that people decorate with. So this little section, I was very intentional. I went with all kinds of colors that were kind of like seafoam green, a little bit of teal, and then I went for like this mauve-y pink. And there's also little accents of like purple and cream and dark green, and black and brighter, more vivid colors. And even white becomes a color in this color palette, as you can see. So it's just a little more advanced than, say, I like brown and blue, or I like gray and pink. There's just a little more variation in the color. Also in Cluttercore, it tends to be really diverse in the shade ranges. You can have all kinds of different reds, all kinds of different blues, all kind of working together, and they still give pops of that color. And in Cluttercore, it just works. As you can see, there is, you know, this color of the pink, but then also in her dress, there's just different variations. I'm sorry, it's kind of blurry and hard to see. And then if you think about that seafoam, there's seafoam color in this. There's seafoam color in here, and in these flowers, and in the key holder, and in the chest itself, you know, and the artwork next to it. So really, I did really think intentionally about the colors in this area. But it is a really broad color palette. If you step back and you look at the whole area, it is very, very color coordinated, but it's also a kind of elaborate color palette when you think about it, with those pops of red, pops of green, pops of black, all tied together with that kind of mauve color and that seafoam green. This little vignette I have by my desk is also very intentional with the color. It has pinks, pops of blue, pops of purple, yellows, and greens, and red. But it all ties together. If you look at those colors, the colors all complement each other. But it's a more advanced color palette than just one or two colors. Another great thing to think about with Cluttercore and the maximalist aesthetic is layering items. You should always have stuff in front of more stuff. That layer effect really gives your home that lived-in feel. It gives that really meaningful, thoughtful, and intentional feel. And it also gives your eye interest. Behind me in my videos, you always see this stuff, and it's all different layers. There are 3 layers there at its deepest, sometimes only 2, but things are layered in front of each other. Also, don't be afraid to layer in front of your books on a bookshelf. Hi, Lily. My cats always want to be part of the video. I think layering in front of books just gives such a great depth to the objects that you have on that shelf. Such an underutilized way to layer and get that Cluttercore look. There really isn't a bookshelf in my life that I don't utilize that layering effect for. It's just such a good way to make items pop against your books. And hey, if you got the space, use it. That's one of the best parts about Cluttercore. You can utilize space in more complicated ways. Layering in front of artwork is another great use of layering. Not only do I have this fun little vintage piece laid in front of that piece of art, but I also have some things laying up against this piece of art. And don't be worried with how much it overlaps. It's okay if your artwork that you have up has stuff overlapping it. That depth of layering is a huge, huge sign of cluttercore, and it just looks so good when you nail it. So don't forget to layer in front of pictures, layer in front of bookshelves, layer different trinkets and such, and just keep making layers of things. You're not blocking stuff out, you're just creating visual layers. And along that lines, creating visual layers can be super helped by lifting things up. If you create different levels of height, you'll be able to see some things behind other things that have been layered in front of it. Look at that, use books to get other figurines in view that are behind others. Over here I have a figurine that is on a teeny tiny little stand. I find those at thrift stores a lot lately. I think they were originally sold at like Home Goods or Michael's. This little vignette does a great job of lifting things up. It lets you show more items with more interest. This display also takes advantage of the idea of the raising it up concept. This photo and pin are lifted up by the layers of this lamp, and even the picture in the back that is partially covered, it is raised up. From this angle, you can see there in the back, it is just raised up on food Tupperware containers. But from the front, you can't tell, but it gives it that extra lift to be able to be seen behind the other items. So don't be intimidated that layering has to have like special plexiglass things or whatever. You can layer with whatever you want. Books, Tupperware, a bowl. You could layer with different boxes. You could layer with cups upside down that are beautiful cups. The possibilities are endless. You can layer with almost anything. Theming can also help tie things together. And sometimes they're loose themes, and sometimes they're themes that really are advanced and almost don't make sense. Behind me, the themes are just kind of an old antique-y kind of feel, but also a little bit rock and roll, because there's pictures of me with my family, me with rock stars. So the theme is definitely very loose, but theme can be a great way to help you tie stuff together in that maximalist aesthetic. This little corner I really think of as like witchy and feminine and the afterlife, and that's kind of what I have tying it all together. Even though that's kind of a very advanced and very loose theme, it works because it's things I love. I am the person that ties it together. So despite the fact that witchy, feminine, vintage, afterlife isn't technically a decorating theme, I can make it a decorating theme. The theme, you could say, that is in my dining room is the room of ladies. I just have a bunch of artwork, very large artwork on the walls that all has amazing, strong, beautiful women in the artwork. And so the theme in the room is strong women. Remember to utilize every single plane you have when you're decorating a shelf. Remember, if you have a shelf, there is a place to put a linen on that shelf and then set stuff on top of the linen. And then maybe that shelf's up against a wall and you can put something against the wall. Maybe the shelf has sides. There's stuff to put on the sides. Use every single plane you have to put items to get that cluttercore feel. So think about all the planes in the room. So what goes on the wall? What can take up the shelf? And even what can set flat on the shelf? Could you put a textile on the shelf? Every single piece that you're decorating, something could live there. I could even put things in this jar, put something on top of the candlestick. I could hang something off of these. Think about every single spot where you could create a place where something else could go. A great way to make cluttercore feel natural and organic is having your eye pulled around, okay? A great way to pull your eye around is different shapes, different colors, different textures, dark and light. As long as your eye is moving around items, it doesn't feel as chaotic. as long as some items pull more than other items, your eye is going to naturally move around all the things in front of you. Contrasts of height and color are a great way to move your eye around. See how this display has two dark pieces that are taller, and then it moves your eye throughout the other smaller light colored pieces. Also having, if you have like little figurines, oh goodness, Lily, hello my dear. Hi my dear. Also, if you have little figurines, make them looking in different directions. Make them looking at each other. With facial expressions looking in different ways, it automatically moves your eye to see where they are looking. And when your eye moves around, it just feels more intentional. And you know, sometimes it's just a feeling too. Sometimes you break the rules, but you realize your eye is moving around the little display you created, the little vignette you created. But having kind of thought behind that, having kind of thought of like, wait, how am I moving people's eyes when they're looking at this, is going to help you create something that's visually interesting and also visually beautiful. Hi, little miss. Do you need to be in the video? Oh, okay. All right, little miss needed to be in the video, as always. A huge Cluttercore staple is the gallery wall. And I think gallery walls can be super intimidating to people, but they really don't have to be. There are so many ways to make a great gallery wall, and there's just so much inspiration online. Gallery walls, gallery walls, gallery walls. Huge maximalist staple is a gallery wall. And I think to a lot of people, they can be super intimidating. But you know what? This is another one of those things where it doesn't all have to go together. It can just go with you as a person. It goes together because of who you are. And really, those 3M command strips are your friend. Majority of this wall is held together with 3M command strips. It is not as many nails as you would think. And remember, when doing a gallery wall, a really good plan of attack is to look at something and kind of line up different points. So you can see that beautiful burlesque picture in the middle, right? I put that fan directly above it, okay? So I thought about that as a straight plane coming down. And then I thought, okay, so let's just go with the planes of that frame. And so I put another frame straight out from it, and I put that candlestick out from it. Now, pro tip on doing straight lines and such. Things with curves, they can get away with being bumped above the lines. So whereas this frame needed to be pretty much in line with the other frame, the candlestick can go above and it still kind of gives the same visual weight. Silly nerd kind of thing that I know because I'm a graphic designer. If you look at letters, rounded letters actually go above the line that straight letters do. And it's because our eyes perceive that rounded point differently than a straight line. So just when you're thinking about lining stuff up, just remember that rounded things, they can bump up. They can go above the line and beyond the line and still work. But the cool thing about gallery walls is you just get to be flexible as you go. You can just fit things as you go. And if it doesn't work, take it down and try something else. You know, there are no rules. But my best advice really is to just line up things where you can and then keep moving. If you don't like it, you can always take it down and change. Check out #GalleryWall. You will find so much inspiration and so many ideas on how to achieve the perfect gallery wall. And honestly, art is a huge weakness of mine. I love artwork. So I'm pretty sure that I'm working on my next gallery wall right now. Don't be afraid to also move items around. Sometimes you think something's gonna work perfect in a vignette the way you've placed it, and you're like, no, it actually doesn't. And speaking of things you don't know if it'll go, I sometimes just buy a piece thinking I know exactly where I'm gonna put it, right? So I bought this little baby girl, and I was like, I'm gonna put her right there. And then I realized I didn't like her in the display like that. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll put her over here. And well, I realized I didn't like her there either. So actually this little baby for right now is actually heading over here. There's Lily. Hi, Lily. And she's gonna live right here on this bookshelf. And I'm pretty happy with that for now. I don't know if that's her final spot, but the cool thing is I can keep moving her around, keep trying, and keep seeing where she works. And don't be afraid of getting rid of something if it really doesn't work either. I think we tend to have this idea in our mind, and we were like, no, this is how it's going to work. If it doesn't work, that is okay. One huge thing about Cluttercore is I think sometimes you just got to get rid of things. Sometimes they just don't work the way that is planned, and that is okay. There is nothing wrong with Marie Kondoing and letting some things go, even in Cluttercore. Also, don't forget that the Maximalist style and Cluttercore can be a way to store items. I am a big believer that if you love things, it shouldn't be in storage. It shouldn't be in closets. It should be around you. You should be enjoying things you love around you at all times. It shouldn't be hidden away. So the great thing about Cluttercore is you can use all your different places as storage for different items. So you can see your jewelry being set out. You can see some of your favorite decorations out on display all year round. It is an opportunity to keep these items around all year, and kind of just keeping them out gives that Cluttercore look, but it's also serving a function as being storage. A great example of this is putting things in things. I have jewelry here coming out of what would be a TV lamp planter, and over here I have a hand holding more jewelry. Just remember that everything you put out can also become storage in its own right. Even in my milk glass display, Lily, your tail's in the way. Lily, come on. Oh goodness. Even in my milk glass display, look how I put that one piece of milk glass inside the other. Think about everything you have as possible space to store something else. Now, to be honest, there are some major drawbacks with Cluttercore. One is you tend to accumulate a lot more stuff a lot more quickly than you think, because people, if they have a minimalist style or a very set style, they know exactly what they want in mind, and they will only get that exact thing, right? Like they want this exact basket from West Elm that looks exactly like this, and they're not going to get anything else. They're only going to get this one item, right? Well, for me, I'll see something and I'm kind of like, I can make that work. And I can make that work with almost anything. So I end up coming home with a lot more things. And that can be a big drawback, because you get to a point where you're like, I just have to let go of things. And if you can't let go of things, it gets way more cluttered than just the Cluttercore style. Also, a big drawback is actually storage, like seasonal storage, things like that. It's hard to keep some of these things that you really want to keep. Especially if you make like a huge Cluttercore display for the holidays, which I did, and I'll link that video above here. That takes a ton more to store than a display that is not that much of a maximalist display. Another drawback to the Cluttercore style is dust. Now, for this video, I absolutely did not dust things. I did not pretend that my house was anything that it isn't. If you came over right now, you would see it as it is and as I filmed it in the video. I don't really believe in making a complete, fake, perfect world to show you. This is really how I live. So if you came over, it's just as it is. The dusting is never ending. It's a pain in the butt. And it's just something you have to deal with if you love the clutter. So that is it, y'all. Oh, I think Little Miss has one more thing to tell you. What Little Miss? Oh, well, she likes the Cluttercore aesthetic too, as you can tell. Okay, so that is it, y'all. That is the whole video on some tips and tricks that I have to achieving that Cluttercore maximalist look. As you can see, everything around me goes with me, especially this little fur baby right here. She definitely goes with me as well. So give me a like, give me a comment, and a subscribe. I'd also love to know tips you have about doing that Cluttercore maximalist look. I'd love to hear it. Also, I'm gonna link some Instagram accounts below that I love, I just think they have the greatest Cluttercore aesthetic, so I hope you enjoy them. Go down the Cluttercore hashtag rabbit hole, y'all. You are gonna love it. I promise, I promise, I promise. And I will see you next time, y'all. Stay creative. Bye. Say bye, little miss. Say bye. Say bye. By the way, reppin' Fatbird Finds right here. If you aren't following that channel, you better go check it out because these ladies are awesome.